1. The scream in the night. On the empty training ground on a weekend, Deanna Cooper was the only one left after practice. The sweat had barely dried on her forehead when she was called into the technical room by a veteran assistant coach, the one the team always called Uncle Mark. At first it was a few words of encouragement, but the compliments quickly became unusual. "You're in great shape. If you were a little more flexible, you'd definitely be starting." Then an uninvited hand on her shoulder, then her back, then lower. Deanna froze. No one was in the room. She jumped up and ran, her heart pounding. That night, she couldn't sleep. 10 years, 100 scars of the soul. Deanna continued to play, continued to succeed. But the haunting didn't go away. Every time she saw Mark on the pitch, she had to grit her teeth. He was still there, coaching young players, girls who had just turned 16. Every time she wanted to speak up, she thought of her career, of the suspicious looks, of the prospect of being kicked out of the team for causing trouble. So she chose to stay silent, until the day Jess, a player 10 years her junior, sat sobbing in the medical room. I think he did something to me, but I didn't dare say anything. I was scared. Point 3. The shocking article. Instead of bringing the matter to the board of directors right away, Deanna quietly contacted a female sports reporter who had reported on school violence, Ellie Townsend. The investigation lasted 4 months, with the identities of the witnesses kept secret. One morning in March, The Guardian published an exclusive article, "Inside the Silence: A Culture of Fear and Abuse in Women's Football Training Camps." Mark was named. 6 unnamed players, 3 of whom had to leave the team early due to depression. The article caused a stir. The head coach and the executive board were forced to speak out. The FA opened an internal investigation. Point 4. When fear becomes power. Deanna did not hide her face. She was the only one on television, looking straight into the camera and saying, "No one should compromise their safety just to play." She then withdrew from the national team, taking a break from competition. But instead of disappearing, Deanna appeared in campaigns against sexual harassment in sport. Years later, at a ceremony to honor individuals fighting for the rights of female athletes, she stepped on stage, her eyes shining with confidence. "I was afraid of being left out of the squad. But today, I stand here, not for the title, but because I chose not to be silent anymore." Point 5. The light in the line. The incident became a hot topic of debate on football forums. Half called Deanna a hero. The other half doubted. She waited nearly 10 years to speak out? Why didn't she sue in the first place? There's no evidence, just words. Deanna wasn't surprised. She knew prejudice was an inevitable part of any journey to expose the truth. But what hurt her the most, the head coach, who had coached her since U17, avoided the media and didn't send her a single message. On a dark night in Manchester, she sat in front of reporter Ellie's recorder, her voice choking. "I don't need the world to believe me. I just need those who have been silent for so many years to know. We are not alone." Point 6. Name: Jessica Harper, victim or sinner? Jess, the person who unlocked Deanna's silence, suddenly disappeared after the article. No one knew where she was. The media began to doubt the authenticity of the accusation. There were rumors that Jess made up stories to find a shortcut to the first team. Another journalist dug up photos of Jess traveling with Mark, the accused. Some of the photos were cropped, distorted, and put on the front pages of tabloids. Deanna was furious. She decided to follow the trail. And then, at a suburban mental health center, she found Jess, skinny, with her hair cut off, avoiding communication. "I'm sorry. I'm so weak." Deanna squeezed her little sister's hand. "No. You're the strongest person I've ever known. And we're going to end this together." Point 7. Collective silence. When the FA began their investigation, many witnesses were called. But strangely, most didn't remember, or didn't know, former players who had cried with Deanna in the past, now avoided her. Some signed big media deals in exchange for the right to remain silent. Some accepted coaching scholarships from Mark himself before the scandal broke. Football, after all, was an industry, and she dared to do what no one else would: poke fun at the power base. Deanna began losing jobs, her commentary offers were cancelled, and the TV network pulled her contract over image concerns. 8. The end of a dynasty. But there was one person who was not bribed: the goalkeeping coach, Riley, a former player who had also been threatened by Mark 20 years earlier. Riley agreed to testify, handing over emails of sexual advances from Mark, emails the FA could not ignore. 3 months later, the Football Association announced, Mark G is banned from all coaching, training or organizing sporting events for 15 years. A criminal case has been opened by the police. And then, one night, when Jess had gone home, Deanna stepped up to the podium to accept the Voice of Justice award from Women in Sport UK. She didn't make a splash. Just one sentence: no one has the right to silence you, not even if they're on the whistle, wearing a suit, or standing on the bench. Point 9. The line between justice and forgiveness. Although Mark was banned, the battle was not over. Deanna and Jess received anonymous letters, threatening messages, and whispers in the football world. She ruined a man's career. He may have been wrong, but is it worth destroying an entire team? On social media, hashtags like #ProtectTheGame and #DeannaTheDestroyer were circulating. Once, Deanna caught the mother of a young player crying in front of a conference room, whispering, "We know he's dangerous, but if we speak up, who will pay for my child's education?" For the first time in months, Deanna felt sorry for those who remained silent. Not because they were cowards, but because they had no choice. 10. Jess speaks. After a year of therapy, Jess recovered and decided to hold a press conference. In front of dozens of cameras, she shared, "I was a victim. But that's not all I am. I will return to football, and I will return as a coach, so that any female player who enters the dressing room will not have to bow their heads." The press conference was widely shared. For the first time, the newspapers that had doubted Jess published an apology. The negative comments gradually disappeared, replaced by lines of encouragement. 11. The Wall of Memories. A year after Mark was prosecuted, Deanna returned to Stamford Bridge for a match honoring the legends of the women's club. She did not start, nor did she enter the field. She just stood there, on the sidelines, as the whole crowd stood up and applauded, chanting her name like a symbol. After the match, a girl of about 9 ran up, hugged the ball to her chest, and timidly asked, "Miss D, were you scared in the past?" Deanna bent down and smiled. "I was scared. But the more scared I was, the more I knew what to do." The little girl nodded. "I want to play soccer too. But my dad said girls can't play soccer." Deanna held the ball and signed the words, "Girls can play soccer, they can fight, and they can win. Note, no one has the right to steal your voice." At the age of 31, Deanna retired from professional competition. But she did not leave soccer. She founded the organization Voices United, a network of support, advice, protection and training for female coaches, female players, and victims of harassment in the sports environment. Each year, the organization publishes the Silence Report, statistics on incidents, policy recommendations, and whistleblower training. In a speech at the United Nations, she ended her speech with the now iconic line, "We are not victims, we are survivors, and we will speak out, until no one is silenced anymore." Quote,